Good morning, civic students. Today I'm going to read to you about price controls. So please follow along during the reading and you will be able to use this on your assignment today. Price ceilings. Laws enacted by the government to regulate prices are called price controls. Price controls come in two flavors. A price ceiling keeps a price from rising above a certain level, the ceiling. A price floor keeps a price floor keeps a price from falling below a certain level, the floor. We can use the demand and supply framework to understand price ceilings. In many markets for goods and services, demanders outnumber suppliers. Consumers, who are also potential voters, sometimes unite to convince the government to hold down a certain price. For example, when rent begins to rise rapidly in a city, perhaps due to rising incomes or a change in taste, renters may press political leaders to pass rent control laws, a price ceiling that usually works by stating that rents can be raised by only a certain maximum percentage each year. Let's expand this example by thinking about a fake town. Rent was fairly stable, but then the town was featured on a top 10 places to live article in a popular magazine. Eventually, rent control laws were passed. So, what that is saying is that a price ceiling means that they can only raise the rent a certain percentage each year. So, a person who rents out their apartment can't raise their rent by $3,000 without, whenever they want it. It has to be a certain amount each year. There's a maximum amount. The effects of price ceilings are complex and sometimes unexpected. In the case of rent control, the price ceiling doesn't simply benefit renters at the expense of landlords. Rather, some renters or potential renters lose their housing as landlords convert apartments to co-ops and condos. There are actually fewer apartments rented out under the price ceiling. 15,000 rental units then would become the case. Then would be the case at the market rent of $600, 17,000 rental units. And even when housing remains in the rental market, landlords tend to spend less on maintenance and on essentials like heating, cooling, hot water, and lighting. Price ceilings are enacted in an attempt to keep prices low for those who demand the product, be it housing, prescription drugs, or auto insurance. But when the market price is not allowed to rise to the equilibrium level, quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied, and thus a shortage occurs. Price floors. Laws enacted by the government to regulate prices are called price controls. Price controls come in two flavors. A price ceiling keeps a price from rising above a certain level, the ceiling. A price floor keeps a price from falling below a certain level, the floor. A price floor is the lowest legal price that can be paid in a market for goods and services, labor, or financial capital. Perhaps the best known example of a price floor is the minimum wage, which is based on a normative view that someone working full-time ought to be able to afford a basic standard of living. The federal minimum wage at the end of 2014 was $7.25 per hour, which yields an income for a single person slightly higher than the poverty line. As the cost of living rises over time, Congress periodically raises the federal minimum wage. Price floors are sometimes called price supports because they support a price by preventing it from falling below a certain level. Around the world, many countries have passed laws to create agricultural price supports. Farm prices, and thus farm incomes, fluctuate, sometimes widely. So even if, on average, farm incomes are adequate, some years they can be quite low. The purpose of price supports is to prevent these swings. The most common way price supports work is that the government enters the market and buys up the product, adding to demand to keep prices higher than they otherwise would be.